Disclaimer. We would like to preface this video by saying that this video by Unwind Hyderabad does not intend to serve as a replacement or substitute for formal psychology education and training. The sole aim of this video is to present credible information to raise awareness among students about suicide prevention and its effects and consequences in particular. Therefore, the information presented here is not meant to substitute professional psychological advice under any circumstances. Hence, if you find yourself in such a situation or identify someone going through the same, please reach out to an adult, teacher, or your school counselor who has prior experience and can help you better than anyone else. Warning. This video will contain a very detailed description of suicidality, self-harm, and its surrounding mental health issues. If any of these topics are triggering to you, we advise you against continuing viewing this.
Let's start by understanding suicide and suicide prevention. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for young people, which amounts to more than all natural causes combined. A teen or young adult dies by suicide every hour and a half. And for every death, there are 15 to 25 times as many attempts. Suicidality is an issue that majorly affects both individuals and communities as a whole, especially in our country where it is highly stigmatized. Each year, more than 703,000 people take their own life after many suicide attempts, corresponding to one death every 40 seconds. Thus, today we want to shed light on suicide prevention. Suicides are preventable with timely, evidence-based and often low-cost interventions. This is very important to build social connections, raise awareness, and provide hope. Reaching out to loved ones for their mental health and well-being could be life-saving. We will be discussing both these topics in more detail moving forward. But before that, let us understand the difference between some key terms related to this discussion.
A teenager is on their way to school. They've got a test schedule today and are frantically going through their textbook trying to reassure themselves that they've prepared enough. But after they were done with the exam, they felt plagued with a sense of dissatisfaction, hopelessness, and fear. But not the kind that comes with the uncertainty of scores. This was the fear of their parents' reaction to it. They've always been told to adhere to specific subjects strictly and focus on their grades and not take any extracurriculars or socialize with their friends. Coercive and restrictive upbringing have caused them to bottle up their feelings, lack trust, and not cope with their problems healthily. Every day they would curl up into a ball of despair, only hoping that tomorrow would pass in the blink of an eye. This is Blue. We hope that their story will help you understand how preventing suicide can help both individuals and the community.
Starting with suicide versus suicide attempt versus self-harm. These terms are often misunderstood and this can have dangerous consequences. So let's differentiate between the different terms. Suicide is when people harm themselves with the intent of ending their lives and succeeding. A suicide attempt is when people harm themselves with the intent of ending their life but they do not die. Self-harm is the deliberate action of causing physical harm to oneself and is a very dangerous sign of emotional distress. This distinction is vital as a previous suicidal attempt is often the most noticeable warning sign of perpetual suicide and should be addressed immediately. Also, according to the DSM-5, which is the Statistical and Diagnostic Manual of Mental Disorders 5th edition, self-harm is self-destructive behavior carried out without any intention of suicide and was formerly known as non-suicidal self-injury disorder, which is abbreviated as NSSID. The most significant difference between suicide and self-harm is the intent. While suicidal individuals use it to end the severe life stresses that they are experiencing, individuals who self-harm use it as a coping mechanism.
There has been a sense of pleasure and relief from guilt each time I try to carve a new line into my skin against my better judgment. But one thing that has changed lately is these harmful acts aren't limited to just hurting myself. Slowly but surely, the thought of ending my sorrow forever seems to be invading my mind.
Suicidal tendencies arise from many different factors. So, let us discuss some of them. Starting with the individual risk factors, which includes the personal factors that affect us, such as history of suicide attempt or adverse experiences, criminal, legal, job, financial problems, and so much more. Any harmful or traumatic experiences in our relationships are relationship risk factors, and they consist of bullying, social isolation, and a lot more. And while related, they're not the same, are the issues that we face in our community that come under the community risk factors. Lastly, societal pressures are responsible for societal risk factors, which includes stigma associated with help seeking, unsafe media portrayals, and a lot more that will be discussed.
When these stressors are taken to an extreme, we see some common warnings. These include verbalizing thoughts of wanting to die or expressing a desire to end their life with unusual interest in discussions about death, becoming increasingly isolated, withdrawing from social activities, and spending significant time alone. Sudden and extreme mood swings, expressing feelings of helplessness, and feeling like a burden to others. Talking about feeling trapped or feeling like there are no solutions to one's situation. Giving away cherished belongings or making arrangements for the future that seems out of the ordinary. Feeling unbearable emotional or physical pain. An increase in drug or alcohol use. Saying goodbye to loved ones as if they won't ever be seen again. Engaging in self harming behaviors, which can sometimes precede a suicide attempt. Losing someone close to you, or going through intense trauma. Any of these can be a warning sign because they may have decided to end their life. We need to keep in mind that all these signs exist on a spectrum and are often misunderstood by those around us. Not everyone who displays these warning signs will attempt suicide, and some individuals may hide their feelings very effectively. If you are concerned about someone or notice any of these signs, take their distress seriously and encourage them to seek help from mental health professional or a crisis hotline.
Factors indicating to serious suicidal risk. There are extreme risk factors for a suicidal person that need to be addressed immediately. They are displaying extreme mood swings, making a plan or looking for ways to kill themselves, increase in self harming tendencies, talking about feeling great guilt or shame, increase in the frequency or intensity of substance abuse, acting anxious or agitated, changing eating or sleeping habits, and showing rage or talking about seeking revenge.
Wait, so this isn't just about me scoring less than before? I have felt hopeless and attempted suicide several times. Uncle Teal and Aunt Amber just need a reason to tease my weight and appearance, and my classmate Wayne tries every opportunity to make fun of my clothing, leading to my friends isolating me from social gatherings. It is also true that we don't have any psychologists in our school, nor does the discussion of mental health happen here. We are just expected to smile every time something feels wrong. And the way the media covers such acts make it feel like anyone struggling is just an outcast. But what does this have to do with my suicidal tendencies?
Now that we have studied the complexities of suicide, let us see some preventive measures regarding it. There are certain measures we can personally take against suicide. They are having effective coping and problem solving skills, finding and strengthening valid reasons for living, maintaining a strong sense of cultural identity. Certain preventive actions with regard to our relationships and within our community can protect us, like getting support from partners, friends, and family, feeling connected to others, feeling connected to school, community, and other social institutions, receiving consistent and high quality physical and behavioral health care.
I feel like it's better to be left alone to my musings. Most days are just unpredictable waves of moods that oscillate within hours. I don't feel like there's any way out of this. I can't even vocalize my feelings. Because whom will I go to? A teacher at my school, Ray, approached me the other day, noticing the change in my behavior over time. They assured me that I could speak to them about it, but I feel very guilty and ashamed for seeking help for something that's my problem. I'm starting to feel more irritated and angry. The more I think about giving up, the more things get out of hand, and the suicidal tendencies just don't stop.
Now, about how to deal with someone who is at risk, something important one needs to understand is that it is okay to seek help from external sources in the situation and step away if it is overwhelming. But if you want to help, there are certain steps that you can take to help someone who is at risk. Firstly, ask them if they are okay or if they are thinking of hurting or killing themselves. Don't be afraid to ask directly. Are you having thoughts of hurting or killing yourself? Asking about suicide will not put the idea in their head. In fact, studies have shown that a lot of people thinking about suicide feel relieved when they can talk about their feelings. Secondly, keeping them safe is vital. Reducing a suicidal person's access to highly lethal items or places is an important part of suicide prevention. While this is not always easy, asking if the at-risk person has a plan and removing or disabling the lethal means can make a difference. Most importantly, listen to them like a true friend. Someone thinking about suicide needs your support. Let them talk about their thoughts and feelings and be good listeners. Extend emotional support towards them rather than distant sympathy. Let them know that you are there for them. Make them feel heard. Don't be afraid to repeat back to them what you have heard just to make sure you understand. Just being there for them has a lot more value than you think. Also, having mental health concerns can be very lonely. People may feel like they are different from everyone else and that no one can understand them. So let them know that they aren't the only ones. Other people have felt this way before, overwhelmed, depressed, scared, and even angry. Even more importantly, let them know that you and the others care and that you're there to support them. And remember, staying in touch after a crisis is essential for establishing secure social support. Studies have shown that the number of suicide deaths go down when someone follows up with the at-risk person. Please note that if you or someone you know is in immediate danger or experiencing a life-threatening emergency, please call your local emergency number or visit the nearest hospital for immediate assistance. It is essential to seek help and support when dealing with mental health crisis or thoughts of suicide.
These are measures for when you know the person being affected. Now we can examine some strategies for suicide prevention for mass application. Personalized safety planning has been shown to help reduce suicidal thoughts and actions. This involves working with a healthcare provider to develop a plan that describes ways to limit access to lethal means such as pills or poisons, listing coping strategies in people and resources that can help in a crisis. Research has shown that when at-risk patients receive supportive phone calls for further risk monitoring and are encouraged to engage in safe behaviors and seek help, their suicide risk is reduced. The letters QPR stand for Question, Persuade, and Refer. QPR is a therapeutically approved emergency response to someone in crisis. Gatekeepers, anyone who may benefit from learning how to use QPR, can be in a position to recognize warning signs of suicide and can intervene to stop it. Unlike most other interventions, the QPR training does not require one to be a mental health professional for effective application. So gatekeepers can include school and college personnel, work supervisors, colleagues, community volunteers, healthcare providers, family, and friends.
There are also some notable public measures to preventing suicide: mental health promotion and awareness, discuss the importance of reducing the stigma associated with mental health and promote awareness campaigns to encourage seeking help. Crisis hotlines and helplines. Take note of national and local suicide prevention hotlines. Look into how these services offer immediate support to individuals in crisis. Mental health services. Highlight the significance of accessible mental health services. Describe the role of mental health professionals and therapists. Community and school-based programs. Discuss the impact of community and school programs in raising awareness and providing support. Mention specific programs like gatekeeper training. Online resources and apps. Highlight the use of online platforms and apps for mental health support. Mention reputable resources and apps that offer assistance.
Well, as you said, I opened up today. I can't even explain how helpful that interaction was. I've never felt this sense of relief and love. They invited a couple more professionals to our town to deliver lectures that educated my locality on building healthy support systems and assisting someone going through a crisis. While most people laughed at them, some people were going through similar experiences as mine. That day, I knew I wasn't alone.
Now, let us better understand non suicidal self injury disorder, NSSID, or what is commonly known as self harm. The individual gains a superficial sense of emotional and mental relief after the harmful act is completed, followed by feelings of shame or guilt, resulting in even more negative emotions until this cycle continues. Cutting, skin carving, extreme scratching, or burning oneself, as well as punching or hitting walls to induce pain, are examples of self injurious behavior. Other examples include ingesting toxic chemicals, extreme skin picking, hair pulling, and deliberate interferences with wound healing. Adolescents are at the higher risk for self harm injury, as many studies state that roughly 15% of teenagers and 17 to 35% of college students have inflicted self harmful behaviors on themselves.
Wayne came into class with a frown. We've all seen them change over the past few weeks. Ray was concerned and wanted to ask them what happened, and it seemed like they were trying to imitate a fictional character from a novel they liked. This discussion had been going viral, and everyone dressed up as that person on Halloween, but upon reading the book, I realized it wasn't something to be glamorized. Ray agreed with me. So, why was everyone talking about it?
Romanticization of self harm. When we romanticize things, we think or talk about them in a way that's either inaccurate or unrealistic. Dictionaries explain romanticizing as believing something is better, more interesting, or more exciting than it really is. All forms of entertainment media promote content that depicts some form of conflict in an individual's life. It is no surprise that we as audiences enjoy stories where a character faces and overcomes an obstacle. Self harm is one of the most tangible symbols of struggle with a mental illness. To many, self harm represents an absolute low which was surmounted and conquered. In social sciences and in medicine, the term Werther effect is used as a synonym for media induced imitation effects of suicidal behavior. It refers to the identified rise in suicide rates following well publicized reports of death by suicide of celebrities or other well known figures in the media. Dating back to 1774, it describes the apparition of copycat suicides after media report on suicides. The WHO published guidelines in 2001 determining exactly what to avoid when reporting a suicide in the media. This includes precise details on the suicide method, personal information on the person having committed suicide, or some expressions such as self-inflicted death. If a report focuses on resource-oriented aspects, this may be possibly even lead to reduction of suicide rate. This is then called the Papageno effect.
Suicidal ideation. Suicidal ideations, often called suicidal thoughts or ideas, is a broad term used to describe a range of contemplations, wishes, and preoccupations with death and suicide. It is evident that suicidal ideations present in a waxing and waning manner, so the magnitude and characteristics of suicidal ideation fluctuate dramatically. Suicidal ideations vary in intensity, duration, and character. As there is no typical suicide victim, there are no typical suicidal thoughts and ideations. Suicidal ideations is common. In 2020, 12.2 million people in the United States reported seriously thinking about suicide. Of these, around 10% attempted suicide. With support and treatment, though, suicide is preventable.
While watching the news the other day, I noticed reporters addressed the issue of suicide much more responsibly. They ensured there were trigger warnings, didn't make it seem like an apocalypse, and invited mental health professionals like therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, and more to deliver the report authentically. They provided solutions that were insightful to know about. Raising awareness made them understand this issue wasn't to be taken lightly. Since then, more people in my community started to speak up. I finally felt like I belonged, was understood, and was being heard.
Stigma as a challenge. Stigma, notably surrounding mental disorders and suicide, ends up stopping many people thinking of taking their own life or who have attempted suicide from seeking help, and therefore stops the help they need. The prevention of suicide has not been adequately addressed, mostly due to the lack of awareness of suicide as a major public health problem and also due to the taboo in many societies to openly discuss it. To date, only a few countries have included suicide prevention among their health priorities, and only 38 countries report having a national suicide prevention strategy. Raising community awareness and breaking down the taboo is important for countries to make progress in preventing suicide.
Therapeutic measures. Multiple types of psychosocial interventions have been found to help individuals who have attempted suicide. These types of interventions may prevent someone from making another attempt. CBT, which is short for Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, can help people learn new ways of dealing with stressful experiences. CBT helps individuals recognize their thought patterns and consider alternative actions when thoughts of suicide arise. DBT, which is short for Dialectical Behavior Therapy, has been shown to reduce suicidal behavior in adolescents. DBT has also been shown to reduce the risk of suicide attempts in adults with borderline personality disorder, a mental illness characterized by an ongoing pattern of varying moods, self-image, and behavior that often results in impulsive actions and problems in relationships. A therapist trained in DBT can help a person recognize when their feelings or actions become overwhelming and teach the person skills that can help them cope more effectively with upsetting situations.
Dear viewers, I urge you to share this video to raise awareness about suicide. Let's not waste time losing people who could have been saved with just a few careful steps. One ray of sunshine is enough to light up a dark room. Many rays together can brighten up the world. This Suicide Prevention Week, Unwind Hyderabad strives to help the community be a safe space for everyone struggling. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more informational content.